Hi, love. It's Lindsay Landry, energy alchemist and heart shaman for healers and soul led women entrepreneurs who are ready to connect deeply to themselves and call in massive pleasure and prosperity. I am so delighted and honored to be here with you today, and I am really looking forward to this conversation and transmission that I have to share with you. So, before we fully drop in, today we're going to be diving into stepping into your next level with more ease, up leveling with ease. Before we dive into that conversation, I really want to presence to where I am in this moment. And I want to do this as a way of really granting you some space and permission in your own process and what that looks like for you. And also in your own life, right? Because we see these podcast episodes or we see things on social media of people who are killing it in their business and who are really successful, maybe in their relationship or whatever, and it's very polished. And I just want to give you a glimpse of like what is real in this moment for me. So I am sitting on my sofa. It's 6:08 a.m. and the dog is snuggled up with me and the cat snuggled up with me on the sofa. I just turned off my fireplace because it was making a buzzing in the background. Ken is on his way home from Vermont. And this is probably the third or fourth time that I hit record. And the first time, the dog started moving and he hit my microphone. The second time, the sound of the fireplace was a buzzing in the background. And so I didn't want that to be a constant thing. And so, I wanted to share that just to give you some permission in wherever you are. Like, it's a little irritating for me when I have to continuously hit record. And also, this is so important to me. One, to share this message, and two, like, to really show up real and raw and authentic and grant you that space and permission as well through my own process, right? So that is really one of the core intentions of this podcast. It's not to give you shiny, polished, this is how you do this, blah, blah, blah. It's really to give you these energetic transmissions, right? These soul messages for your heart and soul so that it nourishes, touches, and awakens something deeper within you, whether you have a business or not, right? So yes. So I'm grateful. I'm really grateful for all the little interruptions because it felt like that was really important to share. So now let's drop in. And I just want to let you know, so the next 3 episodes for sure, I'm batching and they all sort of go together. So I just want to let you know that before we fully drop into this conversation. And of course, as always, take what you need, go towards what is calling you. You don't have to listen to them all together, and, they sort of weave together. So, okay, so today the conversation that is coming forward is up-leveling with ease. And this kind of pinged for me yesterday. And then the pieces all started to weave together of the message that was wanting to be shared. And so I I'm sharing my process, I'm sharing my journey sort of as this transmission for you, right? And for your personal process. And so just a little general outline of what this episode is going to look like is I'm going to share a couple steps like to getting you to the place of like, okay, yes, it's time for an up level. And then I'm going to share with you a bit about like what my process has looked like and what it is looking like in the current real moment. And yeah. And then in the next episode, we're going to go a little bit deeper. So yeah, grab you some tea, whatever makes you comfortable and cozy, and let's go ahead and drop in. I invite you to maybe put a hand on your heart, maybe one on your belly, and just take a couple breaths with me. And I just want to acknowledge you for being here right now in this moment, listening to this episode. If you are listening like in real time, we're in December. The solstice is actually today. So we have a little extra magic encoded here. And it's the holiday season. So there's a lot of buzzing in the air, in the collective. There might be a lot on your to-do list, also bringing the year to an end and like starting to gear up for the new year, right? So there's a lot going on. And also there's this deep invitation inward, presencing. Yeah, so just fully acknowledging wherever you are in this moment. And what I'm noticing as we begin to drop in, and it feels like we probably will presence to this or track it throughout the episode, but what I'm noticing is there's like this power energy or this transmission, and it feels a little bit in front of. So when I'm working with my own energy and also when I'm working with clients, one of the things that we orient to is your personal energy and then where you are in relationship to your essence. So when I say your essence, that is like your magic, right? That is the signatures of who you are, the most authentic parts of you, right? So we orient to like, okay, where are you in relationship to that? And then where is that energy in relationship to your body? And the reason that this is really important is because if it is out of body, it's going to be really challenging and tricky to manifest things in the physical realm, right? Or if you are energetically out of body, it's going to be really challenging to feel pleasure in your body. You might have an idea of pleasure, but having an idea of pleasure or having like an external excitement is very different from actually feeling that energy in your body. Okay. And the same thing goes when it comes to things like money or bringing an offer to life. You know, like a lot of the women that I work with, it's like they are offering services, but they don't feel like they're doing their soul's work. And they want to step more into their soul's calling, right? And what that looks like is like having their own framework, having their own processes. And to do that, it takes a deep level of embodiment, right? And so it's not only having the vision, but it's being able to bring that into your body and into 3D reality. So your actions, your words, your energy actually aligning to the vision that you have and opening to receive the vision that you have. Okay? So, like I said, right now, well, as I'm speaking about it, I can feel the energy coming a little bit closer. But when we started, the energy felt like it was a bit in front. And so I'm going to just be tracking this throughout the conversation. We'll be presencing to it to kind of see like how the process goes. So you can feel for like where this thread is in your energy field. So if you ask, okay, where am I in relationship to my next up level? Or where am I in relationship to stepping into my next level? So yeah, just kind of orient to that right now as we begin to notice like, okay, where is that for me? Like, where do I feel it in my field? Does it feel really far away? Does it feel like it's at my edge? Do I feel like I'm already in it? Just notice. And another way that we can like interpret this, so I'm going to start moving into this process, right? Into this process of claiming your next up level. So typically when we're at the cusp of an up level, it shows up in discomfort, right? Like we've outgrown something. So for me, I really, this next level started calling me probably like around the summer. And I began to orient to it, right? And so that orientation process for me, first it was like really finding a lot of clarity on, okay, what do I absolutely need? So I was in a very uncomfortable situation. So we were living at Ken's mom's house in a studio apartment. And Ken was working away in Savannah. And I got really, really clear that I really wanted to be together, right? And I needed my own space. And there were things that I needed just for my overall well-being and happiness. So it wasn't just this desire, right? It wasn't just this vision. It was I absolutely need these things just to simply be and feel like myself. And I have a process, the Reset to Soul. It's going to be a 4 or 5 day journey. But, if you're at that place of really needing to find some of that clarity for yourself, that journey is really, really powerful. And that is the process that I used to really get clear on what I needed and to start tapping into the flow of that, right? So I have that available. So either reach out to me or you can find it on my website if, you desire that process. So, yeah, so once you begin to find that clarity, right, then really making the decision for yourself that, okay, this is what is not working for me anymore, and this is what I really want. And so this has kind of been a continual like weeding out process. So since we moved into the camper, I got really, really clear in regards to that, right? Into this like discernment and this decision of, I am not willing to bring, some of the habits, some of the patterns, some of the energetics that we were in previously in our relationship, whether I was in it in my business or just, there was these energies that were in our space. I knew that as we were stepping into our own environment, our own world, it was a non-negotiable for me that I was no longer willing to continue like being in relationship with those things in the same way. And so I made that decision, right? And so again, the first step is going to be like a step of clarity of where you're ready to up level in your life. Like what is it that you're really needing? What is like not really working for you? The next step is going to be like really making the decision, finding that place within yourself of, okay, absolutely not, or like I'm absolutely standing for these things. Like this is so important to me. I'm putting this as a priority. And the next step is declaring it. And so for me, the declaration has been sharing it with other people that I feel really safe and seen by. And also I've used the process of sacred ceremony. And for me, this has been so powerful really throughout my life. When I was a child, I wasn't even planning to share this, but I'm seeing it, so I'm going to go ahead and share it. And also before I share, what I'm seeing is this thread, right, of the next level. And so they're showing me like, okay, check in with it. I want to invite you, like, check in right now. So let's orient to where you are in relationship to this up level that's available. And yeah, what they're showing me is it's like staying in presence, right? Of as you're moving, listening to what's really being asked and being willing to flow a bit with life and what's being given in the moment, which we'll talk about more. But yeah, so I wasn't planning on sharing this, but when I was a child, probably, I don't know, I remember being like 5 years old. My grandmother went to a lot of retreats and she would go to these healing masses. And I grew up Catholic, and at these healing masses, people would have visions of the Blessed Mother, and often they would bring these big issues, like things, places where they needed healing, and they would bring these things and healing would happen. Miracles would happen. And when I was a little girl, my grandmother would bring me to these churches with her where there was miracles, there were miracles that would happen like on a normal basis. These churches were known for this. And also sometimes healing services or masses where again miracles would happen. And as a little girl, I was fixated and fascinated on this, right? And I'm sharing that because that in itself is a declaration. So it's not the same level of ceremony that I currently practice, and yet the energy that is there in that space of showing up in the divine presence and really saying like, I'm declaring that I need healing. I need help. Help me, cleanse me. Right? I offer this to you. And then laying it at the feet of these services, letting it go, receiving the miracle, right? There's so much potency there. And when I'm working with ceremonial energy, this is the energy that I'm working with. It's not, let me go into ceremony to get a bunch of information and then grind it out and do the thing. And I have a whole nother episode that I'll probably record on that. Probably not today, but it's kind of been in the back of my consciousness bubbling up to share. But when we're dropping into ceremony, it's really this, it's about communing, it's about offering, it's about allowing the divine to meet you. And it's a co-creation. And I remember, I think it was around 2010. So that was one of my first sacred ceremonies. I had just gotten back from Kripalu, which in 2010, May 2010, I ended up leaving my job. I was working as a holistic dietitian at a gynecologist's office, and I left my job because I was like not really satisfied, and I went to Massachusetts and I lived and volunteered at a yoga wellness center for 4 months. And I had never done yoga in my life, but there was this calling and I listened to it, right? When I got home from that experience, because it was such a huge experience and really put me on my path of the work that I do today. But when I got home from that experience, I was looking for community, and I connected with this woman. She is also a shaman, and she was hosting a full moon ceremony, a woman's gathering. And I went, and I remember at that time I was struggling with a lot of digestive issues. My stomach was really like hurting all the time, and that was one of my prayers in that ceremony. And I believe we wrote down our intentions and did like a fire ceremony. And I remember on my way home, I saw a shooting star. Oh. And in that moment, I knew that my prayers were heard. And the next morning I woke up and I had this intuitive nudge to make this essential oil rub for myself. And I went to the bathroom to do it, and I heard this thump on the window. And I wasn't sure what it was, so I went outside to go see, and a bird had flew into the window and it died. And it was a dove. And in that moment, I knew that, again, my prayers were heard, and like I could just let it go. that it was done, right? And this is, again, I want to share this because I feel like we've gotten into this place where we don't fully respect the potency of these practices, right? And so there's a way that we kind of like manifesting. There's still this way that it's like, oh, I'm manifesting these things. Well, actually, there's so much sacred energy here. And yeah, we can manifest and create, but when you are fully giving reverence to these processes and you are leaning into and creating with and from this space of the divine, it's a different flavor. And that is where real healing happens. So I want to just pause here and take a few breaths and invite you to just see where you are in relationship to this next level, your up level. What I'm noticing is there's a vulnerability. So I feel like the thread is more like in me now, and there's like this vulnerability. It feels really vulnerable. Okay, so once you declare your next level, the next step is really receiving. And there's a few layers of receiving. Receiving is the portal for up-leveling with ease. So it's not in doing, it's not in pushing, it's not in striving, it's in receiving. And this is the place, again, where when we have that reverence with the divine and this connection to life, it is a different flavor than when we are just like in manifestation energy, right? Like, oh, I'm going to manifest these things. Well, of course we can manifest things, and that can be really fun, right? And I'm not telling you not to manifest things, but what I'm saying is when we have these deep rooted patterns and these ways of being that are hurting, we are suffering, right? And it's painful. And you are wanting deep change. It takes a bigger energy than that, than just manifesting. Even just vibrational work, like it takes something deeper. And this is where, the invitation to holding it in reverence, holding it in a sacredness, really is. So when we're receiving, this is the portal. And there's a few different layers of receiving. So receiving what life is giving you and offering you. And sometimes, what life is giving us and offering us, it feels really like, yeah, but that's not for me. That's not what I want. Okay, great. Can you still receive it? Because here's the thing. If we don't allow ourselves to like receive and experience what we are actually being given, it's really hard to get to that place of like doing the above steps and breaking through. Like, you have to go all the way through it. And part of the going through it is the receiving. The image that I'm being given is the birth canal, right? So when something is being born, when a baby's being born, if the woman just shuts down and she's like, nope, I don't want to receive that pain, right? Nope, that hurts. I'm going to like clench and not receive that. There's going to be so much more resistance, and it's going to be harder to give birth, for one, and this thing is going to keep pushing. It's going to create suffering, right? And it's going to create, it could be harmful. And so, receiving what life is giving you, what life is offering you, let it move through. Let yourself move through it. And in that, there is some transmutation, some alchemizing. And I'm not going to go really deep into that because this episode is already a little bit longer than I initially intended. But yeah, so in the receiving, even if, like the energy feels like it's not great, when you receive it, that's where the opportunity is to transmute it, to alchemize it. And then when we receive, we can really also look for the opportunity. So sometimes, the opportunity is making the decision like, no, this isn't working. But we have to make that decision from the actual place of embodiment, right? Again, if we make that decision from the energy being out there in front of us, it's not going to be as powerful. The true change, the true transformation, the true healing happens when it is coming from the center, from that embodied place. And that's where you're actually able to shift energy and begin to magnetize the results that you want with so much more ease. And whether that the results of that is like something changing, or maybe it's calling in more clients, more money, maybe it's calling in your husband actually showing up for you and helping you and supporting you, or the intimacy, right? The deep intimacy that you're wanting, because maybe like you've been so busy trying to do all the things and hold it together for everyone that you're not actually getting that like rich quality time and those experiences that you want. The energy has to come from deep within for the things to really change and click. So looking for the opportunity. So once you receive, then you can look for the opportunity of where you're being invited. And sometimes the invitation is boundaries, right? Or another one, for me, is an edge I've been working is around seeing myself. And so as I receive what life is currently giving me, I'm noticing these opportunities to really see and integrate these parts of myself. And another piece around receiving. So to release patterns, programming, to release energy that's not serving you, receiving is the portal for that. And also witnessing, like being witnessed, is a really big portal for release. And so one place where I see women get stuck is, or either they get stuck or they continue in the same loops, right? So they don't actually break the cycle. They don't actually break through the pattern or the loop, is that they're trying to work these energetics by themselves, and they're doing a really great job at it, okay? And they're not being witnessed. Being witnessed is a huge part in actually being able to release the energy. When someone sees you, when someone really sees you and they witness you in the healing, right? In the letting go, in the prayer, in the declaration, it is so, so powerful. And for me, once we moved into the camper, I knew that I needed that level of container. And so I invested in a container for myself, for my personal healing, my relationship healing, and also my business. And it has been one of the best gifts I feel like I could have given myself and claimed for myself. I wholeheartedly believe in investing in yourself. I've done it since I was probably 18 years old. And also, when I went through probably around COVID, I guess, I stepped back. I stepped back from working with healers. I stepped back a lot from the business world. And part of my process around that was because I felt like I needed to learn how to do it, like how to be in my own healing process again. When we are constantly in other people's containers, or especially when those people have their own framework, their own processes, and they're bringing you through a specific process, right? What I find is then it can be really challenging to find your own process. And that was sort of what I was hitting, and I needed to pull back my energy to find my own process. And what I've realized now is I desire to be held in containers where my process is honored and there is space for me to be in my own process and allow my process to actually not lead the container per se, but like be a big co-creation in the container, right? To really be honored. And this is so, 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 so important, right? So I'm giving you some framework here. And what I really want to invite you towards is this is just inspiration. Like receive it as inspiration of what worked for me. And like you get to digest it, metabolize it, and then see what actually wants to come through you as a unique individual. This is where authentic expression is born, right? But there's so much power in being witnessed. So, I would love to invite you to join us in the Soul Inspired Success community and share with us. Share with us what's coming through for you as a unique individual. And, if you do sort of go through these practices, the 4 steps that I shared here of clarity, deciding, declaration, receiving, and being witnessed. I guess that's 5. And then the next step would be embodiment. And embodiment is really where we begin to move from that new energy, and we really begin to practice living from it, right? Stepping into it. So yeah, as you go through these steps in your own unique way, right? I'd love to invite you to come to the Soul Inspired Success community on Facebook and share with us what you're noticing. Share with us what's coming through for you. That way we can witness you. And if you want deep support, I am currently receiving one-on-one clients, and I also have some really juicy things that are coming in the new year. So reach out to me and let's talk. I have some ceremonies in the work that I'm going to be holding virtually. So that is an opportunity. I have my one-on-one work. And then also, as I mentioned, the soul reset, which is going to be like a go at your own pace, sort of like a mini course. So those are some really potent ways to be held in a little container and say yes to yourself and to this next level that is calling you. All right, my love, I'm going to wrap it up here. I love you, and I will see you or talk to you in the next episode. Bye for now.